My name is Casey Howell. Spent 24 years in the Marine Corps. I did some time in the reserves as an infantryman, and then I went active duty shortly after that. 12 years total infantry. Then I moved into air wing as a mechanic, and then 8 years of that, and then spent some time as a what we call career recruiter.
So what inspired you to join the Marine Corps?
I wanted to challenge. I wanted to do something hard. Growing up, watching war movies, stuff like that, that always interested me. So I thought, hey, why not join the military? My original plan was to become a Navy SEAL, and then my mom, she convinced me to go talk to all the other services first. Hoping I'd probably go talk to the Air Force. But the next stop I made was the Marine Corps office, and they sold me on the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And that's where I ended up. That's the decision I made.
Can you describe your initial training and what it was like to become a Marine?
So as far as recruit training, I went to Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, or sometimes as other East Coast Marines refer to us as Hollywood Marines. It was 13 weeks. It was probably one of the most challenging things I had done up to that point. Actually, it was the most challenging thing. It was like something I've never been to, or like I've never experienced in my life. For instance, the screaming, the yelling. You hear people tell you, "Oh, I can join the Marines. My parents yell at me all the time." Yeah, that's one thing. But when you have four fully trained Marines, getting in your face at one point, it's a whole totally different animal. So that was the mental aspect, and then you had the physical aspect, which I considered myself in pretty good shape. So that really helped me out going through recruit training. But obviously going through the crucible, which is the final test of a recruit to become a Marine. It's 54 hours. Getting 2.5 meals, very limited sleep, so it really tests you and what you really want. But at the end of that, when you get up on top of that mountain where they give you your Eagle Globe and Anchor and call you Marine for the first time, it definitely made it worth it. It was one of the most important moments in my life.
Were you guide or platoon?
No, I was GP, general population. But hey, let's just say I fit in very well.
Yeah.
I got yelled at less. So.
What year did you join exactly?
99.
99. So this
June 2nd of 99.
Wow. So
Yep.
This was during peacetime. So
Yep.
your recruiters, did any of them have combat experience?
No, none of them had combat experience.
Did they ever? How would they talk? How would they describe what the Marine Corps would be? Did you ever think that you would ever have to go into combat?
Obviously that was so long ago.
Yeah.
I don't really remember them talking about having to go to combat, but I knew, like I said before, I wanted to do something hard, and I wanted to do the special operations type of job field, infantry, anything like that. So I knew it was a chance, but that was just what I was looking forward to.
Did you ever think you would have to go into a combat situation?
No, never did.
When you were deployed during the Iraq War and Global War on Terror?
My first time I was deployed from 04 to 05 with my reserve unit. We kind of bounced around, or I did. I bounced around a lot from a place called Haditha Dam to another place called the Forward Observation Base HIT, which HIT was a training facility for Saddam Hussein's army, where that was almost like a boot camp for them. And then they were all in the Sunni Triangle area, so in the most kind of western region of Iraq.
So this was a very important section of Iraq, the Haditha Dam, correct?
That's where they got a lot of their electricity, was from that dam.
Were you a part of the initial invasion?
No, I was not.
Okay. So how long was the war going on before you went there?
The initial invasion, 03, so I got there about a year later.
A year later.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet guys that were during the initial invasion?
Oh yeah, 24 years? Yeah.
24. Well,
Yeah.
like during that time before you went, did they ever give you stories or tell you what to look out for?
No, not while I was on deployment. No, because we were just with ourselves, and all of the people that were with us on that deployment were people from my reserve unit, which we had already been serving together, you know, through the reserves, which is just 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. But then we deployed all together, so we were only around each other.
Yeah, I find that very interesting. You know, reserve units. You know, people don't think much about them, but they act during the hardest times of the Marine Corps. They've had to push through. You know.
Well, and a lot of, yes, I mean, there's a lot of nicknames for reservists, but I mean, one of the good things that I'm proud of is that, I mean, even the active duty that were out there, they couldn't tell the difference between us or reservists, because I mean, we did our job. Did what we were supposed to do.
Can you share a memorable experience or story from your time over there?
In Iraq,
Yes, sir.
one of them I would say, which was I feel pretty important. We were there for the first Iraqi elections. We guarded the voting ballot
Really?
for. I mean, we only got one person voting, but I feel that, you know, I'm real big into history. I like being a part of history, so I feel like I was a part of history just because I was there helping doing that.
So when Saddam got caught in the trial, how did that make you feel?
I would imagine at the time I was excited because, you know, obviously everybody in the world knew he was a bad guy. So I mean, anytime a bad guy gets caught and gets thrown out of office, that's good for the rest of the world,
Yeah.
and especially the people of Iraq. You know,
Yeah.
because there was a lot of hard times that individuals went through. Obviously, I mean, I don't know how much history you know about Iraq, but you have the Sunni and the Shia, which are two different sects that lived in Iraq. And obviously the Sunni, who lived, which is where I was stationed, they didn't have the same political views as the Shia, which were predominantly all the people who were in charge in Baghdad, you know, on the eastern side of the country. So once he got out of office, then I don't know too much about what happened afterwards, but hopefully things were starting to move in the right direction.
Did you think this experience changed you drastically?
Definitely, yeah. You know, I mean, any of this, especially the situations that I got put in, definitely makes you grow up as a person pretty quick. You know, makes you look at, you know, worldviews as far as, you know, about life, how fragile it is, you know, and to just wake up. You know what I mean?
How old were you?
Appreciate things more. How old was I?
Yes, sir.
So 2004, I was 22, 23-ish. They didn't have any alcohol in Iraq, so.
So you said you transitioned from the ground side to the air wing.
Mm-hmm.
How big of a culture shock was that for you?
Oh, that was huge. Oh, any Marine that, just any Marine who's ever been on the ground side and then been around air wing, that knows what I'm talking about. It's a dramatic change. The culture's way different. I mean, I even had a sergeant major who was a ground side Marine who got stationed or got orders to my squadron, and he comes up to me one day knowing that I'm a ground side Marine, and he's like, how do you deal with this on a day-to-day basis, you know? But I mean, it is a little bit of a culture shock. I mean, I'd like to feel that I was I was a little bit more adapted to it, just because I just came right off recruiting, which recruiting's a lot more lax than the rest of the Marine Corps, and but yeah, it's a lot different,
What was so different exactly?
Just the in ground side Marine Corps, training is the number one thing. That's all you're doing is training on the ground side. Whereas in the air wing, all you're doing is maintenance. You're not training at all. Only thing you're doing is making sure the aircraft are up so that way the pilots can train. So everything revolves around getting the aircraft to fly, to be able to fly. So if there was an issue with the aircraft, that was the only thing that mattered. And not to put down the air wing. I mean, I'll tell you what, they're some of the most workingest guys I've ever met. And they're dedicated at it too. They want to be there to work. They want to get those aircraft working so that way the pilots can be able to do their job. But it's a little more lax than the air wing, as far as the standards. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple more rolls in the belly or a little more longer hair, but other than that, I mean, those are some of the hardest working guys in the Marine Corps is air wing.
Did you get any special qualifications for your platform?
No. Well, yeah, I did. I guess you could. I don't know if it's special, but it was called Safe for Flight. So Safe for Flight, for those that don't know what it is it's a qualification you get so that way you're able to look through an aircraft's book to make sure there are no maintenance issues with it, so that way that aircraft can be safe to go out and fly. And it was my job to scroll through all the maintenance records, primary maintenance schedules, things like that, to ensure that the aircraft was good to go. But that's pretty much the only one. I moved late in my career. I moved over into the job field late in my career as a staff sergeant. So I kind of had an uphill battle. I mean, I had E3s and E4s, E5s telling me what to do, or telling me how to do my job. So they thought the best fit for me was in maintenance control, where all the maintenance is dictated. So, which was good. It worked out good for me.
I heard you worked in the ospreys, correct?
Yes, I did.
So these planes, they're known to not be very safe sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Was that ever an issue?
No, not for us. I mean, yeah, we had our occasional aircraft that had issues, but I mean, they were all able to land safely. I was never with a squadron where we lost anybody. I mean, have I had friends we have lost once they moved on to different squadrons? Yes, but I mean, in the 8 years I was in the Osprey community, I was never with a squadron where we lost Marines. Everything worked out as supposed to.
Did you ever feel any pressure from higher ups, like was a maintenance officer or plane captains taking too long in their inspections?
Did we?
Yeah. Did you ever have any
plane captains?
Yeah.
Plane captains were usually the one getting the pressure. But no. I mean, they for the most part, the squadrons that I worked for, they understood that these things are going to go flying in the air, and they don't want somebody to rush something and have something bad happen. So for the most part, I mean, the things that did matter, they made sure that they happened. And I mean, obviously, from time to time, we would get pressure about, hey, why isn't this aircraft, getting fixed, or this or that. And obviously, with so many aircraft and so many maintainers, we have to pick the priorities so we can get them to fly, right? So we had to pick the ones that we thought we can get flown. And that's pretty much that's pretty much about the extent of the pressure we got. I mean, nothing unsafe.
What motivated you to transition to the air wing?
I just thought they were fascinating. I thought the Osprey were just a fascinating aircraft. I mean, something that takes off like a helicopter and then transitions in the middle of the air to an airplane. I thought that was so cool. So, I got with my monitor and asked him if he'd give me a lap move, and it happened. So.
Can you describe a typical day in your new position compared to your combat role?
Oh, maintenance control to combat. Well, I mean, it was a lot more stressful, I would say, in the air wing, in maintenance control. I mean, because you're moving 100 miles a minute. I mean, obviously, like you said, people are needing aircraft up, and you have to know what's going on with each aircraft every minute of the day, so that way you can give updates to your maintenance chief, your maintenance officer. It just goes up the chain, because like I said, those pilots have to get those hours. If they don't get those hours, we're not going to be able to deploy. So, I mean, I don't know if it's because I spent so much time in the infantry where everything became second nature, but I mean, I would definitely say it was more stressful in the maintenance control role versus a combat role.
So how do you think your service in the Marine Corps has shaped your views on leadership and teamwork?
Oh, yeah. Compared to how I looked at it as a 19-year-old, wet behind the ears, definitely has changed me. You know, leaders are not there for themselves. They're there for the people that are underneath them. And that's flat out it, you know. If you're not serving those underneath you, then you're not a leader. You're not doing your job, you know. And that's one big thing I learned on recruiting as well. Making sure my Marines that were out on the streets recruiting other people had what they needed. And that also goes into the effect of training, you know. If they didn't have the training they needed, they wouldn't be able to recruit the people, you know. So it was a constant, having to go around and riding along with my Marines, watching them interact with other people, and then afterwards we'd have a sit-down session and do some training on it, you know. So definitely, that's my biggest view is, you know, being a leader, meaning is you getting them what they need.
So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced during your service, and how did you overcome them?
One of the biggest challenges was lat moving, and it wasn't as simple as me calling my monitor and asking them, "Hey, can I become a Osprey mechanic?" No, especially as a staff sergeant. You know, I had to get some higher up people involved that spoke on my behalf, and then same thing when I lat moved into the career recruiting field. You know, I mean, career recruiting is an MOS in itself. It's like no other MOS that you'll ever see. There's no other MOS like career recruiters in the Marine Corps. The way it runs, the way it's set up, anything. And that was a challenge to get, because I mean, I was a gunnery sergeant when I came out on recruiting 6 years ago. And, you know, a couple years later, they had asked me if I wanted to be a career recruiter. I was like, yep, sure do. And because I loved doing the work. But my monitor didn't want to give up a gunnery sergeant Osprey mechanic. You know, he just like, I can't give you up, buddy, sorry. And it took some higher ups to speak on my behalf to give that monitor the push that I needed. So, yeah.
So what support systems did you find most helpful during and after your service?
Support systems? Oh, well, I mean, as a young Marine, it was my more senior lance corporals and NCOs helping to guide me along, you know. You know, as a sergeant, it was my platoon sergeant. I had one of the best platoon sergeants you could ever imagine. He was a retired first sergeant, Chris Carlisle. I mean, that you think of a war movie, and he'd be the leading guy. Multiple Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars. I mean, the guy was the battalion CEO would go to him for his input on things. And I mean, the guy was he was that guy, you know, he was that infantryman, you know. You heard of, you know, Gunner Sergeant Highway on Heartbreak Ridge, you know, he's that guy. And he was a big influence on me, when the short time I had with him, which was about two and a half years. But he was all about discipline and ensuring that the Marines had what they needed as far as training goes, you know, and ensuring that it got done. You know, he inspected what he expected, if that makes sense. And then later on, as I got married and started having kids, my spouse, she was a big thing, you know, especially when I got out of recruiting, you know. You know, recruiting was a different animal, especially me never being in the situation where I had been, which is becoming a new boss and the stresses that come along with that. That was probably the most stress I've ever had in my Marine Corps career. Multiple combat tours, you know, air wing, and then recruiting. Nothing like it. The stressors are just there, It's a zero fail mission attitude. And the stressors that came down from above was just immense. And I get home and I just had to be able to lean on my wife, definitely her as far as people to lean on,
So how long have you been out of the service?
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah, my last day was January 31st.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How was that retirement ceremony? Was it very emotional?
Yes, it was. I was extremely fortunate to have my brother being my retiring officer. I looked up to him my whole life. He's my older brother, and I actually enlisted him, and he had a very prestigious career. Started out as enlisted, went warrant officer, then commissioned officer, and I was very fortunate enough to have him as my retiring officer, which not very Marines can say that they've had happen, So it was a great ceremony. Couldn't have asked for anything better. All the people I wanted to were there.
So when you're in the air wing, they did a lot of training exercises, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Which was your favorite one?
Air wing training exercises as far as for the pilots flying?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I really didn't get much of those because the pilots, when they're out training, they don't allow a lot of, non-crew members like plane captains or air crew to actually go on the aircraft while they're doing that. And it's more like, sometimes they'll do some joy flights. That's about it,
You ever get to ride back seat?
Huh?
You ever get to ride back seat on a?
Yeah, I've done it. I've been in the back of an Osprey when they do some of that before. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll play with us and see if they can make us throw up, things like that.
Yeah.
Like they'll pull some G's on you, which is pretty cool. I love one of the things I like about the Osprey is when they fly, they leave the back ramp down, and I have a lot of pictures of when I was in the back of the aircraft, especially when I did a deployment to Spain, and we flew to England, and we got to take pictures of like the English Channel, France, England, all that places is really cool.
Is there anything else you would like to share about your experiences, or anything you feel is important for people to understand your military service?
It's not for everybody, but I will tell you this: it gave me the pedestal to become who I am today, to become successful. Whether you do 4 years or 40 years, it gives you tools to become successful. Whether it be the educational benefits, which as far as the educational benefits, a lot of people think of them as, oh well, just I don't want to go to college. I want to go do truck driving, or I want to become a welder or electrician. Well, those education benefits bleed into that kind of stuff. It gives you the money, or it gives you training. It pays for the training for you to go into, say a blue collar type of job, or just the benefits you get when you get out. Whether it be, like myself, and I get a pension and disability paycheck every month, or just whatever it may be. You just look up whatever kind of benefits you have in your area, and just look at them. There's a lot of benefits for the military depending on which state you're in, but as far as Texas goes, there's unmatched benefits that come out of Texas for veterans specifically. But yeah.
Looking back, how do you feel about your decision to join the Marine Corps?
If I was to do it again, I probably would not have gone to the reserves. I probably would have gone straight active duty. My original plan was to become an officer and go to Angelo State in San Angelo, and I was accepted into the program, but some things happened, wasn't able to, and so I eventually went active duty. But I feel that if I would have gone active duty, I would have been a lot further ahead in my career. But hey, there's no sense in dwelling on the past, right? So, I will tell you this: I loved my career. I had a good career, and it progressed well as I went along. Like I said, I had a lot of great mentors. Kept my nose clean, I'm pretty much one of those guys that likes to follow the rules and know the rules, so I don't get in trouble. So I was, any time that I was up for promotion, I got it, and I tried to do what I could to make myself promotable, which I did. So, but as far as my career path, it was a good career path. I mean, it was steady. It was good.
Would you like to tell us a story about your first or second NAM?
Well, I mean, they're nothing very exciting. It all came out of the air wing, and then on recruiting, so nothing from combat. But I got a NAM my first NAM was actually 16 years in the Marine Corps. It was being in the air wing. So obviously, you know what the McMAP program is, martial arts, Marine Corps martial arts program. I was one of the only martial arts instructors for our squadron. And, the air wing, they don't really care much about groundside training. Well, I wouldn't say they don't care much about it, but they don't put as much in there as, the wing, right? Getting the aircraft up. But so I volunteered to go to the martial arts instructors course. And then once I got back, I started running courses before and after work because, hey, air wingers, you're not allowed to be away from work. So I had to set those courses outside of the work hours. So I did that. I did some other secondary jobs in the squadrons. And the NAM pretty much I got was an end of tour award. Are you familiar with that term?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then the awards I got, like a Navy comm, I actually won it's almost what we call an offensive on recruiting. Was the #1 staff NCOIC of the office here in Odessa out of the entire region, the western region, for recruiting. So I got a Navy comm for that. And then I got a Meritorious Service Award, Marine Corps Meritorious Service, when I left the Marine Corps. I mean, I said I didn't get in trouble, but that didn't mean I was the best Marine out there. So, yeah.
Is there any final thoughts?
I mean, I loved the Marine Corps. Everything I did in it, the men and the women that I served with. I mean, it was just a blessing. I'm glad I lasted as long as I did. It just gave me the opportunity to build that many more relationships, and people who have never gone through what we have, they'll never understand. I mean, I have family members that they've known that I've been a Marine for, for X amount of time, but they just, unless you actually go through it, they'll never understand. They look at it as a job, just a job. Whereas obviously me and you, we don't look at it that way. It's a brother and a sisterhood. But I absolutely loved every bit of it, and I love being known as a Marine. I love when people ask me, "Oh, you're in the service?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was a Marine." I love telling people that because I'm so proud of it.